Hey! Let's go!
Duck.
God damn
Buddy. Lucy.
I'm reloading.
Lucy.
Oh, I've got to reload. Buddy.
Buddy.
He's trying to get to the middle. Cancel her. Good shit.
Lucy.
Oh, I'm trying to get him. I'm getting staggered.
Buddy.
Buddy.
I'm shutting down the shield.
No, he's on me. Duck.
I shut him down.
Buddy.
Buddy.
Lucy.
Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. Now first off, let me just say that today I don't want to feed you with any bullshit that this build is a godly raid build and it does 88 million DPS, because that's not what we do around here. What I want to do today is I want to help you out as an individual and give you a complete raid build. Now what I mean by complete is, if you haven't attempted the raid already, there's 4 main bosses, 4 main phases should we say, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about them, but you could actually have a different build for each boss. Like the first one, you could have a lot of headshot damage. The second one's all about status effects, so you need a lot of hazard protection, that helps. The third and the fourth, you know, you need to stack a lot of damage to elites, because it's all about, you know, gold NPCs. So what I've tried to do today is I'm going to show you the build that I actually use in the raid, and for me it works perfectly because it has a balance across all them elements, so it's good throughout each phase of the raid. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So as you can see from the start, the weakness of this raid build is the armor. It's only 275, but I am going to be honest with you, I've had 300k armor, I've had 350k armor in the raid, and the NPCs, especially on the last boss, they do that much damage that going from 350 to 275, I didn't really notice any difference. I got melted just as fast. So yeah, it's armor, I'm not going to say isn't important, but I wouldn't focus on it too much. I'd focus on other elements of the build. So as you can see, I'm running the Badger, the 2 Gila, the 2 Femrus, and the Petrov holster. So first we'll start off with the mask. Now it has took me a lot of time to play around with this build and just to get it comfortable and for me to enjoy using it. So I have been playing around with a few different other masks like Murakami, which, you know, it gives me a few, you know, extra health points and so on. But I find that this Badger mask is by far the best one, because with Badger you get the 7% damage to elites. It has a huge roll of hazard protection, which, like I say, for the second boss, it's all about status effects. If you don't know what hazard protection is, it's basically similar to exotic resilience from Division 1. It's all for like fire and just different stuff like that, basically. So we have damage, 40% damage to elites, which is a nice roll, and then we have the cooldown reduction, which isn't really necessary, but it's still a nice little bonus. Now with this mask you don't actually get any mod slots, so that's just going to be the mask. But like I say, off that mask we get 47% damage to elites alone, and then we have the huge number of hazard protection. Now the chest piece, I know it's Femrus and it's for assault rifle damage, and you might be thinking, oh well, wouldn't that be better using an assault rifle? Well, it's the only chest that comes with 2 talents. Now, I would highly recommend using Unbreakable. If there's 2 talents in this raid that I would recommend, it would be Unbreakable and Patience on the Kneepads. Don't even bother attempting doing the raid without at least Patience on the Kneepads, because it can be a lifesaver. So anyway, back to the chest. We have 16,500 armor. We have a nice roll of 11.5% weapon damage, and we have a nice chunk of skill power, which is just over 500. Then we obviously have the Unbreakable, and we have the Hard Hitting, which gives us 10% damage to elites. Then just the defensive mod, which gives us nearly 7k health. Now I'll show you the Kneepads because they are Femrous also. Now the Kneepads, again, you know, I get the 10% protection from elites, which is really nice and it really helps. But also, these are the only Kneepads that come with 2 talents, and these are, you know, the most important talents in the build. We have Patience and Hard Hitting, which gives us another 10% damage to elites. The attribute roll is 10.5% total armor. Now I have recently just got one, which is, I don't think I've got it. Yeah, there it is, 11% armor. So it's not much of an increase, but I will be rolling that over onto these Kneepads eventually. So the Petrov holster, pretty simple why I use that, because it gives me the LMG damage, and also it's quite a nice piece to get quite a few different attributes on. As you can see there, I've got 2 blues and the yellow. So far we've got the Badger, we have the 2 Femrous, that's 10% protection from elite, and 4 talents from the 2 Femrous. We have the Petrov, which gives us the LMG damage. Now we have 2 Gila. We have the backpack, which, it's a nice backpack, but I had to roll damage to elites on it, so I am looking for a better backpack, because I'd like these attribute rolls to be a lot higher. But it's quite a rare backpack as well, to be honest. You know, I don't get many with 3 blues on. But we have the total armor, we have the health, and then 7,600 armor. Now the 2 talents I'm running is Hard Hitting, which gives us 10% damage to elites, and then we have the Safeguard. Now Safeguard is still good, you know, don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near as good as it was before they nerfed it, but it still does come in really, really handy. You know, there's times where I'll be, you know, face tanking a gold NPC, which you shouldn't do. Always stay in cover. Never face tank a gold NPC in the raid. But yeah, I'll just get the kill on him, and then as soon as I drop a chem launcher, I get that 150% bonus. So it is nice for the healing. Now the 2 mods I'm running a 4% armor defensive mod, and then in the offensive mod slot I've got a generic system mod, which gives me the 4% total armor. Now the 4% total armor is nice, but I have, if you wanted to, you could put an offensive mod in, which I've got one there that will give me an extra 6% LMG damage. Or also I've got 2 more generic system mods which are LMG damage, but just for the sake of keeping my armor higher, I just chose the 4% total armor. So yeah, it's not a bad backpack, but it could be better. Now onto the gloves. These are definitely my preferred gloves. Unfortunately, the LMG damage was capped at 9%, and that's because it's got a huge hazard protection roll on the gloves. Now, I can't emphasize more on stacking hazard protection, especially for the second boss. You know, it can be the difference of surviving and dying, and all it does is it's just for a health roll. So for what you can get in health, you might as well stack hazard protection. So we have 21% hazard protection on the gloves, we have 9% LMG damage, and then we've got the Devastating, which is the 5% weapon damage. We also have 1 utility mod, as all Gila gloves come with a utility mod slot. This just gives us 169 skill power. Now, if you wanted to, you don't have to run these gloves. I like running these gloves because, if you can see, the 2 set Gila gives me another 20% hazard protection, which works out really nice. But if you wanted to, you could actually run these gloves and they can increase your health slightly, and you can unlock compensated. Now, as you can see, it says I've got one extra offensive attribute, so what I'd have to do is I'd have to go onto the backpack and unslot the total armor generic mod, because that's in an offensive slot. So if I unslot that, I could run the compensated, which would, you know, it would give you a little bit more damage, you know, because as we all know, compensated does more damage than devastating, plus it's got more LMG damage on. But I just like these ones because of the amount of hazard protection. Like, I get 20% just off the brand, and I get 21% rolled on the gloves. So yeah, they're the gloves I use. Now onto the weapons. Now, it's not the highest LMG build I've ever done. You know, it's still 29.1, which is still pretty nice. If I wanted to, I could slot in, like I said earlier, I could slot in a few more LMG damage mods, but it doesn't make much of a difference. Like I say, I've gone into the raid with 33, 35k, you know, damage on the LMG, and it's all about stacking the damage to elites. That's what really makes the difference in the raid on hitting the NPCs harder. So yeah, the mods on the LMG, I've got the 8% damage to elites hollow sight. I have the large pouch, the plus 35 rounds, which I did tell you last time, you've got to keep completing your projects, and that's how you can unlock the extra 35 rounds. Now I stack a little bit of stability on the grip, and then on the muzzle, 5% damage to elites. Now, because I'm running unhinged and Allegro, you know, the handling can be slightly tricky. So if you are struggling with the weapon handling, I would suggest switching to something like this for an extra 20% stability, because you only lose 5% damage to elite, so it's not the end of the world if you switch to a 20% stability suppressor. The second gun I use is the Lullaby, and I don't actually use it to shoot. I use the evasive, so when I roll it fills up 25% of my magazine. Now, everyone's different. There's a few guys in my squad and they like to run double LMGs. I like to run this just because, you know, there's certain phases where I need to get to a location, and reload them would take too long. So all I do is roll to that desired location, and then instantly I've got me ammo back in my gun. I don't need to worry about it. So yeah, the pistol, again, I just run this for the recharged, so when I put a cam launcher down, you know, it just has a little bit longer duration. Nothing special really. I mean, one more thing I'd recommend, if you're not using the Lullaby, use something with protective reload on, because this really does help you. So yeah, that's the main basis of the build. I'll be using these LMG Specialist Demolitionist, because I get the extra LMG damage. So yeah, the main highlights on the build are the Patience. I'd always recommend Patience in the raid, and Unbreakable. I don't really use Unbreakable in PvP. I think it's a little bit cheesy. It's like Nomad 2.0. I prefer to go with Bloodsucker, but in PvE, Unbreakable, I've really begun to like it. Now, the skills I'm running in the raid, nothing special. I'm running the Revive Hive. I think everyone should run the Revive Hive in the squad. And then I just run the chem launcher. Now over to the stat sheets. This is where things get a little bit interesting. So as you can see, I've actually still got a little bit of headshot damage as well. I've got 65% headshot damage, which isn't great, but you know, it's still something. Now onto the offense, we have 36.5% all weapon damage bonus. We also have 34% LMG damage bonus. And then as we scroll down, you can see we've got 90% damage to elites. Now, in a raid, I'd recommend, you know, anything from 80 to 100% damage to elites. I think that's the sweet spot. If you're running like 40% damage to elites, it's not really, you know, it's not really noticeable. So try and push your damage to elites up as much as you can. Now onto the defense, as you can see there, I've got 74% hazard protection. Now that is stacked really high. Like I showed earlier, you know, I've got it on my gloves, I've got it on my mask, so that really helps, especially for that second boss. You need this hazard protection. And also I've got, somehow, I'm not sure how, but my burn resistance is slightly higher. I've checked all my mods. I don't know if it's something from the specialist, but my burn resistance gone up to 94%. It's not important, but it's still nice to have on a PvE build. So yeah, just a recap: 90% damage to elites, 74% hazard protection, which is like exotic resilience, and 94% burn resistance. And then we have 36.5 all weapons damage and 34% LMG damage. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I have the damage to elites stacked on the mask, the backpack, the chest, and the knee pads. And I hope you enjoy this build as much as I have, you know, because some phases of the raid have been an absolute breeze, you know, using this build. If I make any adjustments, like I say, I'm going to maybe increase the armor on the knee pads. I'm going to look for a new backpack. If I do make any adjustments, you'll be the first to know. I'll let you know in a notification. I'll put a post on YouTube. Yeah, but that's it for now. You know, it's been a pleasure, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you do like the content. If you don't like the content, don't subscribe, but just let me know in the comments why. And if you do leave a comment, I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. So for now, take care, and I'll see you guys later.